Righteous Felon Craft Jerky is the official jerky of Belly Up Sports. For over a decade, Righteous Felon Craft Jerky has led the American meat snack revolution by concocting delicious, adventurous, U.S.-sourced jerky recipes for uncompromising carnivores across the country. With 15 different flavors to choose from, Righteous Felon has all jerky lovers covered, and by using promo code BELLYUP, you will get 15% off your purchase at righteousfelon.com. Do your taste buds a favor today and rip into a bag of Righteous Felon jerky.
What were you expecting once you saw how the season concluded? What were we going to see a lot of for these nominations for the Ballon d'Or?
I was expecting a lot of PSG. Second French club to win the Champions League. The French invented the Champions League. They invented the Ballon d'Or. They vote for the Ballon d'Or. And I think it was very PSG heavy. And I was expecting that and not surprised when I saw a ton of PSG players.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what happened. PSG had not only just a great year, but a very historical year. They completed a treble. I think that's the first treble in PSG's. I mean, obviously, it has to be the first ever treble because there's only two cups to win in Ligue 1, and then on top of that, they finally lifted the Champions League trophy after so many millions of dollars, probably billions of dollars to be fair, and all the coaches that has gone through PSG. And they apparently all it took was to get rid of the most expensive player, and that's all you needed to do to become a contender. But yeah, I was on the same boat on the same page as you. I was like, there's gonna be a lot of PSG. I think PSG was almost undefeated in Ligue 1. Obviously we already mentioned the double, and then obviously lift the cherry on top, winning the Champions League. Do you think of any international? Obviously, there was no real international competition, at least to speak of, unless you want to talk about Gold Cup. But do you feel like Nations League, when everyone was saying the Nations League is what's going to decide the Ballon d'Or winner? Did you ever feel the Nations League would be ever put into consideration for this award?
No, mainly because when you started talking about the Nations League, it took me 2 seconds to remember that Portugal won and beat Spain in the final. And I think it was a good game, but it wasn't a memorable game with memorable performances. I also think when it's a tournament and a competition invented less than 10 years ago, it shouldn't matter that much in an award that's been going around since the 50s or 60s. So I think if you're voting for this award, you should really be thinking about league form and the Champions League and any other European competition.
Mm-hmm. All right. And then obviously Club World Cup.
Club World Cup.
Did that change anything for you with the Club World Cup? Or did that double down for someone for that?
I don't think so, because with the Club World Cup, it was almost such a weird tournament where it was almost like preseason for this season.
Mm-hmm.
And even though they were calling it last season, so it technically was last season and not the beginning of this season, it felt more like the beginning of this season than last season because transfers were made, teams changed. So I almost felt unless someone completely came out of nowhere, and Chelsea won, and they did come out of nowhere to a certain extent, but none of their players were going to be nominated or win the Ballon d'Or to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so your Cole Palmer stock is still where it is.
Yes, it still hasn't gotten higher, and it still hasn't gotten lower. It's pretty steady.
No, I totally agree. I think, yes, PSG did make it to the final. I don't know if it solidified anything that was already I felt already determined at that point. I don't think that this was the deciding factor for the Ballon d'Or. I mean, if for Barca fans, I guess for the sake of their argument, they weren't even in the tournament, so that would have at least hurt the stock of certain players. I won't say who I would have picked out of Barcelona just yet, at least. But we'll just I'll go ahead and list out for the podcast, the audio version of this podcast for that sake. List all the nominees for it. So we'll start with Jude Bellingham from Real Madrid, Ousmane Dembélé from PSG. 3 players from PSG I'll just start off with. Ousmane Dembélé, Gianluigi Donnarumma. I was about to say Buffon. Desiree Doué, Denzel Dumfries from Inter Milan. Did his transfer happen yet, or is he still with?
I think he's still at Inter.
Okay, thank God.
Yeah.
Serhou Guirassy from Borussia Dortmund, Erling Haaland from Manchester City for some weird reason. Victor Gyökeres from Sporting Lisbon and Arsenal. He's not going to win it. Robert Lewandowski from Barcelona. Hakimi from PSG. I know that's a very touchy name right now, but that's our only mention. Harry Kane from Bayern Munich. Kvaratskhelia from PSG. McAllister from Liverpool. Lautaro Martinez from Inter Milan. Scott McTominay from Napoli. What a year he had. I'm sure Manchester United is definitely not kicking themselves for letting him go. Kylian Mbappe from Real Madrid. João Neves from PSG. Nuno Mendes from PSG. Michael Olise from Bayern Munich. Cole Palmer from Chelsea. Pedri from Barcelona. Fabian Ruiz from PSG. Declan Rice from Arsenal. Rafinha from Barcelona. Mohamed Salah from Liverpool. Vinny Jr. from Real Madrid. Virgil van Dijk from Liverpool. Vitinha from PSG. Florian Wirtz from Bayer Leverkusen. You know what? The slash makes no sense. It's counting towards the season that they were with Bayer Leverkusen. Don't give this to
Definitely.
Liverpool. And Lamine Yamal from Barcelona. So those were the names. I was not surprised. Yeah, like you're right. Heavily PSG, and you know whenever a team wins Champions League and other trophies, they should be featured. And yes, Nuno Mendes. Well, yes, he did have an impactful Nations League final. I don't think that's enough to justify a fullback to win the Ballon d'Or. As much as I would love to see a fullback win the Ballon d'Or, speaking as someone that once played that position, once again, defenders are just not going to win this thing.
No, unless they're captaining the World Cup or, I mean, Van Dijk got really close to winning it a couple years ago, but he lost out to Messi. So I think a defender can still win it in today's day and age, but they got to do like captaining, leader in clean sheets, and win at least their league and the Champions League. Or, like, again, the World Cup in a World Cup year.
I mean, you got Sergio Ramos, scoring penalty kicks for crying out loud. So, I mean, and for the people that were saying that last year Dani Carvajal should have been considered, he wasn't going to win it. It was Rodri. I said it on the episode when we covered it. I saw Rodri winning it. I didn't, as much as it was a controversial pick for everybody, but it was Rodri. But I think we'll just go down from 3 all the way to 1. Who is, at least from those players on the list, who is in your top 3? Who is in your vision of when they do the Ballon d'Or ceremony that clearly we all watch?
Definitely watching.
Who's that one sitting right next to the Ballon d'Or winner?
This is so hard because it is almost a tie with me between Rafinha and Lamine Yamal, but I'll go with Rafinha because his stats, it's a weird thing to say, but like Rafinha's stats are better, but I would say if you're like telling me who's the better player, I think Yamal's the better player. I just think like he's still so young and like the production of goals and assists usually comes like Vinny Jr. It came after a couple seasons. It usually comes after a couple seasons. Even Rafinha didn't produce like this at Barcelona's first season. So I would go Rafinha third.
Okay.
And then probably controversially, I would go Dembele second. Even though I think Dembele will win it, I would put him second. Just because I think Salah had an incredible year. 29 goals, 18 assists, played every game in the Premier League. Liverpool were not favorites to win the Premier League. And they won, and he was their best player, and he was the league's best player. And I will admit I am a little bit Premier League biased. I just think it's the best league. I do understand that Salah lost to PSG in I think it was the round of 16.
Yeah.
But that game was so close. That tie was so close. It went to pens. Exactly. Yeah. I totally remembered that. So I think you're splitting hairs. Obviously, again, Dembele I think will win it, but I would give it to Salah. I think he was the best player the whole season.
Yeah, I think a lot of people forget how Liverpool was the odds-on favorite for the Champions League. At that point, I mean, the way they were playing, it was just a whole other level. And I mean, let's be honest, with PSG, they didn't look great initially in the Champions League. I mean, they had to play in, which obviously, lucky for them, they got to play against, I believe it was Lille. They played against
I think it might have been Brest.
Was it Brest?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I know it was a team that they normally play against in Ligue 1, and they beat the brakes off. It was kind of like in college football when, Alabama decides to play against, South Alabama and just beat the brakes off of them, and then goes into, obviously that's a bad example because Alabama, I don't know if they're going to be good this year. But, beats the brakes off of a team and then goes right into the season with a full head of confidence. And, I mean, they beat who they were supposed, oh yeah, that's right, we're PSG. Beat the brakes out of that team, goes on to play Liverpool. And I think a very good matchup. I think Arne Slot, keep an eye on with Liverpool, man. They're gonna be, if you guys thought they were good last year, they got significantly better this year. So we'll see with them. But yeah, I think Mo Salah definitely deserves some love. It would be really awesome for him, just because then if someone were to be the second African to have ever won the Ballon d'Or, I would have loved to have been Sadio Mane, but Mohamed Salah, I mean, he's just been at a whole different level that year, and I totally agree with what you're saying, at least in your eyes. But so for me, for third, I will also say Rafinha. I think people are gonna go off of statistics. I know that Rodri, even though no one went off of statistics for Rodri, just overall impact. And when you look at impact, it just so happens that he was impactful for their Euro run, which and I say this all the time with midfielders. It's so they're not going to pop off on stats, unless you look at chances created and defensive statistics. You're not going to really see it off of a midfielder. You're not going to see the high goal margin. You're not going to see the high assist margin just because they're really just there to send it to the next channel, right? And so I think for Rodri's sake, if you watched the games and if you looked at the games, you understood why he won the Ballon d'Or. And that was my argument for why he won, because once again, he played his position well, not only for Manchester City, but also for Spain, which you pointed that out as well. European competition, the Euro is a pretty big deal. But Rafinha, I think with this Hansi Flick attack, I think it worked well for his abilities. He also bought in on defense, because if you're going to play for Hansi Flick and you're going to play Hansi Flick's system, you better be willing to defend. Anything that involves German football in general, you better be willing to defend. And I think he unlocked Rafinha. Remember, a lot of people were wanting him to be sold.
It was the people wanted him to leave so Nico Williams could come in. Exactly,
and obviously, Nico Williams didn't happen.
Yeah, it didn't happen twice.
But Rafinha, I think, once again, he found his role with Hansi Flick's system, and he flourished. Statistically, you look at the stats, it looks good on stats, but also if you watch the games, you could tell that he was doing his part for the club. And I agree with you. Lamine Yamal, he's going to be elite. He's up there already, and that's the crazy part. He's already up there, but he's going to get better. And it is so scary to say that sentence as a Madridista.
Yeah.
So
his birthday parties are also probably going to get better and better the more money he makes.
Yeah, that's look. Like I said, man, it's a dangerous game when you give 17-year-old that much money
and that much fame and that much, holy moly.
Yeah, and obviously also him jet skiing with a 4-year-old woman. Nothing wrong with that.
Hey, some people like jet skiing. Whatever.
Yeah, hey, he was saving up for his birthday party. He couldn't afford to. So
Exactly. Split the costs, save the money.
My second pick, I can't ignore Mohamed Salah, man. I can't. I don't want to. I hate when people do it. He was really impactful. I'm sure someone will find a way to feature 3 PSG players, but Doué, I think, came out of nowhere, to be honest. I don't think his stats. If you're going off of statistics, me and Edward actually talked about it earlier in an earlier episode. Lamine Yamal's stats pops out more than Desiree Doué. No offense to him. Doué, phenomenal year. Also very funny in that final against Inter Milan where he became the second youngest to score a goal in the Champions League final, only for that other younger player to come off the bench, and then he became the second youngest.
Yeah, holy moly, that was funny.
One, that just tells me PSG is just going to be so scary for years to come.
Loaded,
young and just Jesus Christ. But yeah, so I'm going to give it to Mohamed Salah. I think amazing year. If only there was an AFCON during that last season, because I feel like
he might have won it.
I'm tired. We need to see someone else not from Europe win this thing. So, but yeah, I think hopefully we give him his flowers for that season, because I think he was very spectacular for Liverpool. A lot of people were thinking he was out the door, and clearly he's not out the door.
No.
And then for me, it has to be Ousmane Dembele. There's just no way he essentially in this one. I don't think many people had a lot of faith. I mean, as far as PSG winning the league and probably the French Cup, I think that they all felt that they could still win that, but they could never get to the Champions League final. Well, they gone to the Champions League final. It was during COVID, but they just couldn't get to the Champions League final. And say what you want, but as much as people want to clown on Dembele for that super high price tag that Barcelona paid for, that's not his fault. Barcelona was willing to pay for that.
Mm-hmm.
Injuries happen. I don't know what it was with Barcelona, but he just kept getting hurt. It was weird because when you watched him at Dortmund, he was always healthy, and then you see him go to Barcelona, and he just kept getting that injury bug like almost every season. It was almost like I hated for him, because obviously as someone that has watched him play at Borussia Dortmund, I was like, this guy has he should be up there with that 2018 French team, right? The team that won the World Cup, but he wasn't. So I think that it's insane when you think about it like that. But Ousmane Dembele, he stepped up. He took the role of the leader of that team when Mbappe left, and also sacrificed, right? He was playing on the wing. Desiree Doué happened, and he was just like, all right, put me in the mid. Looks at Luis. That speech that Luis Enrique gave to Mbappe. When he was talking about Michael Jordan and all that. That's what I felt like. Dembele listened, and because he goes back, he defends, he comes up and attacks. He moves the ball around. He does all the dirty work for you, and still does the finishing for you. And it was one of those things where the team played so fluid. It was such a weird PSG team because there wasn't that many massive signings, if that makes any sense. Clearly they had good signings, but like Desiree Doué, no one saw him coming, and Dembele kind of took that leadership role. Obviously Marquinhos is still there, but in the front part, you can see Dembele being that guy up top, and I think he was very important for that very young front. And I think that's why PSG was so effective last season, and why they finally lifted a cup, along with just having arguably one of the best managers in the game in Luis Enrique.
Yeah, I think with Dembele, the argument for him is almost like the team. Like, I don't know if this will make as much sense.
The team is too good.
The Tim Duncan, that like he was kind of, there was great players around him, but he was kind of the one that stood out and played on both ends. And I also think when someone is, I don't know, I guess, yeah, he was a little mocked over his injuries, kind of made fun of. His stock was very low at Barcelona. And then the fact that it's been able to bounce back, and the fact that it was in the first year without Mbappe, I understand why he's going to win it, because I do think he is going to win it. And I think also his stats weren't like bad. He literally 8 goals, 6 assists in the Champions League is incredible. So, yeah.
No, yeah, and that's why, like, I can see Dembele winning. I think he's the front runner. I think, and if you want to use Club World Cup in any way to like solidify anything, I mean, they did make it to the final. I don't know how much of he was part of that team, but I mean, it just goes back to, him willing to do what needs to be done for the team. And I think kind of similar to why Rodri won, maybe didn't pop as much as he would in the stat sheet, but did what he needed to do to get the results. Now, do I know what the French media is going to be using as their criteria points? Because last year their criteria just changed out of nowhere to off the field conduct came into play.
Yeah, it got weird. Last year was very odd. Ballon d'Or, Rodri was almost like given it because of something that had nothing to do with what happened on the field, and it was even weird because I was reading an article about Vinny Jr. and his time last season at Madrid, and I had forgotten he won the FIFA Best Award, which people can clown that award, but it's still I'm pretty sure it's still voted on by either players or somebody important. Like it's not just randomly given. So I was surprised. It's still surprising that he didn't win the Ballon d'Or last year.
We hype up the Ballon d'Or, but we don't hype up the FIFA Best Player.
Yeah.
Because I remember, what was the year Robert Lewandowski should have won? And Messi won it, right? I think that's
yeah. It was either 2020 or 2021.
Messi won it for the World, because everyone's like, oh, he won the World Cup. And everyone was like, I feel like you need to give it to Lewandowski, or maybe it wasn't the World Cup year, but I know he won one where I think it was 2021. Everyone felt like Lewandowski should have gone back to back because obviously COVID. Lewandowski was also on a different level, and then I think Messi wins the Ballon d'Or, and then Lewandowski won the FIFA Player of the Year award. So it was insane that when you look back at it, because then same thing here where Rodri won it, which once again I agree with the decision for Rodri, but then you give Vinny the best player. The FIFA Best Player of the Year award. So yeah, I completely agree with you on that notion. But I don't know, man. It's gonna be funny with Real Madrid. Obviously, even though I support that club and it is the club that I identify with the most. They're petty. So I don't think that anyone can make an argument for a Madrid player this year because Real Madrid they weren't great last year. And that's funny to say that when they finished second place, but it was just reality. The team just didn't play well. The team wasn't really as good as they should have been, and I mean, we saw what happened against PSG in the Club World Cup. But it's not going to be a Real Madrid player. I do believe. I think Champions League is going to put into consideration. I think that's going to be the big thing where everyone looks at. I could see in some way where Lamine Yamal is a finalist. I don't see him winning it.
I could see him finishing third. As kind of like a token, like Jude Bellingham finished third last year, and it was almost like we knew you weren't going to win it, but this is because we appreciated how well you played.
Who is that guy?